Hey everybody, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Before we get into the video, I do want to bring your attention to some of the information that I have in my description bar. If there's anyone out there who is just looking for some resources on how you can support the end of systematic racism, injustice, police brutality in America, please check out the information that I have in my description bar. I have a bunch of links to websites that you can get some information on if you want to make donations, sign petitions, join protests. If there are people out there who feel like you just need some general education on Black history in America, if you're just wanting to know like how we got to this point, I also have some links on different websites that you can read up on that will give you some of that education, and also some really good documentaries that will help you learn about the history of Blacks in America. So please make sure you check out all of that information. And if you have any resources that you think that I should add to the list, please let me know in the comments. And you will also see a list of Black-owned makeup brands that you can support. So please check all of that information out. So for today's video, we're going to be talking about the Makeup Revolution Splendor Ultra Matte Bronzer. So we are going to compare this to the Fenty bronzer. So let me know if you can tell. I have the Makeup Revolution bronzer on one side of my face, and I have the Fenty, one of the Fenty Sunstalker bronzers on the other side of my face. So we're going to compare this bronzer to the Fenty one and do some comparison swatches to some other bronzer. You'll see me apply it, and then I'll just tell you my overall thoughts on this bronzer. So let's jump right into it. Okay, so here is the bronzer. This is what the packaging looks like. It's a really nice rose gold packaging, and it's a really big bronzer. So I'm not sure if this is like a new trend with bronzers, but this one is huge, just like the Charlotte Tilbury one. They retail for $12, and you'll be able to find them in Ulta stores if you're in the US. This is the shade Medium. So this is the second shade in the range from light to dark, and there are 6 shades total. So I'll put a picture up here so you can see all of the shades, and this one is the second one in the range. And then under here is a really nice size mirror. So just like with the Charlotte Tilbury one, this is a big mirror to the point where you can pretty much see your whole face in it, just in case you want to take this on the go. So when I first opened this, I was really surprised. I didn't know it was going to be this dark. So let me show you something on the box that it came in. So up here at the top of the box, they have a swatch of what the shade is supposed to look like. So when I saw that, I said, oh, this is going to be a good shade. But when you compare that swatch to the actual color of the bronzer looks darker to me. And I was shocked when I saw this, because I think this is the darkest bronzer that I'm gonna have in my collection. I feel like I probably could have gone with light. So I haven't tried this out yet, so maybe I'll try this out and I'll like it, and then I'll think that, you know, light might be too light, but this one does look kind of dark. But we're gonna do some swatch comparisons in a minute. But it's just crazy to me that I think that I need the lightest shade in a range of bronzers, because when it comes to drugstore and affordable brands, usually the darkest shade that they would have in a bronzer is still too light for me. So it's crazy that this is the second one, and there are 4 other shades that are darker than this one. So, but I think I'm going to do the same thing that I did in the Charlotte Tilbury video. So I'm going to swatch this up against some of the other bronzers that I use most often in my collection, and then I will do my makeup, but just put bronzer on one side of my face so that we can compare. So let's start out with some swatches. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention about this, it smells just like pineapple coconut. So it smells really good in the pan, but I'm not a big fan of stuff on my skin that smells like fruit. So I'm hoping that the smell goes away pretty fast after you put it on, but it does have a pleasant smell. I just don't want, like, I don't want my face to smell like fruit. So, but anyway, so this is the Makeup Revolution bronzer. So that's a really nice deep color. Like, I still can't believe like how deep it is. So I feel like I'm going to swatch this one next to my Fenty Beauty bronzer, because I think this is going to be the closest one to the Makeup Revolution one. So this is the Fenty bronzer, the Sunstalker bronzer in Cocoa Naughty. Yeah, and even this one I can already tell that this one is a little lighter. Yeah. Because even when I got the Fenty bronzer, I was thinking maybe I should have gone a little lighter, but it turned out to be a really good shade for me. But yeah, it's definitely, the Makeup Revolution one is definitely a little darker. So I'm also going to swatch the Too Faced bronzer. This is the Sun Bunny bronzer. I did swatch this in the Charlotte Tilbury video because I wanted to give you guys an example of bronzers that I really like on my skin tone. So this is like a really subtle one. And as you can see, it has a lot of glow to it. But I like this bronzer because it's subtle. So I like, you know, bronzers that like barely show up on my skin, which is why I use that Too Faced one sometimes. And then next up is the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer, and this one is in the shade Endless Summer. This was my favorite bronzer for a very long time. It kind of, I don't know. I don't like this one as much as the Charlotte Tilbury bronzer, but I feel like it is a close, not necessarily a dupe, but they're pretty similar. But this was my go-to bronzer for a very long time. And next up is the Charlotte Tilbury bronzer. So this one is in the shade Medium number 3. And I think I'm going to swatch this one on top of the Makeup Revolution bronzer. Yeah, it's definitely, this Makeup Revolution bronzer, I don't know, I just feel like it's gonna be too dark when I put it on my face. Next up is the Morphe bronzer. This is the Glamour Bronze bronzer in the shade Trailblazer. So let's swatch this one down here. And then lastly, this is a bronzer that I hardly ever use, but I just wanted to show you an example of a very red bronzer. I did swatch this in the Charlotte Tilbury video too. This is the Becca Sunlit bronzer in the shade Maui Nights. And I got this because it's super red, because I like bronzers that run really red, but this one is just too red for me. But I was watching a video from Andrea Renee, if you're familiar with her. And she actually said that she uses this one as a blush, so I feel like I'm gonna try that. But anyway, these are all of the bronzers. So I just wanted to smooth out that first bronzer. So the first one is the Charlotte Tilbury bronzer in the shade Medium or number 3. The second one is the Makeup Revolution bronzer in the shade Medium. So that's the second one from light to dark. Next up is the Fenty Sunstalker bronzer in the shade Cocoa Naughty. That is the Too Faced Sun Bunny bronzer. This one is the Physicians Formula bronzer in Endless Summer. This one is Morphe Glamour Bronze in Trailblazer. And the last one is the Becca Sunlit bronzer in Maui Nights. All right, so let's put this bronzer to the test, and I'm gonna start off with finishing up my eye look with this bronzer. So right now I just have a shimmery shade on my lid, and I'm just going to run the bronzer around that shimmery shade just to see how it works on my lid, because I do often use bronzers up here, kind of like when I just don't feel like, you know, reaching for another eyeshadow palette or something. So I think it does a good job up here. And I feel like in my mind, I can't help but compare this to the Fenty Sunstalker bronzer, because I feel like that's the one it's most comparable to in terms of the shade of it. And the way that it looks on my lid, it looks fine, but it actually doesn't look, I don't know, as warm, I guess, as I thought it was gonna be. It looks kind of, I don't know, it looks kind of muted to me on my eyelids. So I also put some of it on my lower lash line, and it looks okay like as an eyeshadow, but I don't know if it's a matter of maybe I got some of that shimmery shade mixed in. It looks kind of like muddy, like the way that it looks on my eyelid, it's making me question like how it's gonna look on the face as a bronzer, because it just looks kind of muddy to me. But I don't know if it's like the way that the light is catching it. I feel like when I turn my head certain ways, it looks a bit more red in certain angles. But let's put it on the face so we can really put it to the test. So there is a good amount of kickback in here, but you know, nothing too bad. I'm using my Uoma Cosmetics brush. So I'm going in with a little bit, and I'm gonna start right on my cheeks. and I'm putting it like right above the hollow of my cheek. So like right here is like the hollow of my cheek. I'm putting it right above that. And it's actually not bad. It's definitely, I feel like it's definitely darker than, my Charlotte Tilbury bronzer, that's for sure. And it is darker than the Fenty one, but it's not quite as dark as I thought it was gonna be, like on my face. It doesn't look bad at all so far. In terms of like how it feels and all that, it feels just fine. Like, I think it's blending out well. I do think it's doing a good job at warming up the face. I will say though, I guess because the last new bronzer that I used was the Charlotte Tilbury bronzer, so that's like sticking out in my mind. I feel like it's not quite as warm as the Charlotte Tilbury one. Like, it doesn't look quite as, I don't know, sun-kissed, I guess. But it does still look really nice though. Okay, so this side of my face has the bronzer on it. This side does not. I'm gonna go ahead and finish up my makeup so that we can see a completed look with bronzer versus no bronzer. Okay, so I did the rest of my makeup and I have the bronzer on this side of my face. And then I have no bronzer on this side of my face. So I meant to only put bronzer on one side of my nose, but just as quickly as I was doing it, I forgot and I just put the bronzer on both sides of the nose. But other than that, I don't have any bronzer anywhere else on this side of my face. So let me know what you all think about it. I don't think that this looks horrible, but I just don't think that I'm gonna be reaching for this bronzer that much. Like, I don't know, I feel like maybe I need to try a different shade before I can really tell how I feel about this. I just think it's coming off just a tad like muddy on my skin tone. Like, it just doesn't look as warm as I thought it was gonna look. And I said earlier that I think the Fenty bronzer, where's my Fenty bronzer? I think the Fenty bronzer is the one that has the closest shade match to all of the bronzers that I have. And I think you guys can tell just by looking at the two of them. Like, to me, this one is just running a little bit more warm. Like, I can see some red in this one, but I guess because this one has red, but it's also just a little bit lighter, I guess. I just feel like, I don't know. It doesn't look bad, but I just don't think that this is going to be one of my favorites, you know? But let me know what y'all think. Do you think that I should try the shade Light? Or is this going to be like the best one for my shade range? Or for my complexion, rather. For those of you who do have a similar complexion to me, I wear shades 340 and 380 mixed in Fenty. I don't know what my MAC foundation shade is. I think it's NW43, but if you feel like you have a similar complexion to me and you tried this bronzer already, what shade did you get? I definitely think it's worth trying out, especially since it's only $12 and you're getting so much product. So for those of you who get it and you like it, you're gonna get a whole lot of product. I mean, this will definitely get you through the summer. So I think it's worth trying out, but I think for me, it's just not gonna be my go-to. It's not going to be one that I'm going to be reaching for very much this summer, but maybe I'll change my mind if I try a different color. So I'm going to very quickly put bronzer on the other side of my face just so that my face will be complete. Actually, I'm going to put Fenty on the other side of my face. I'm just going to go in with a different brush just so that we won't have some of the Makeup Revolution bronzer on the brush already. I'm gonna put just a little bit more on my cheekbones. I can see a difference. It's very subtle, but I can see a difference. Okay, so over here we have the Makeup Revolution side. And then over here we have the Fenty side, and again this is the Sunstalker bronzer in the shade Cocoa Naughty. So let me know, do y'all see a difference? Is there one side that you like better than the other, or do you feel like it's pretty much the same? I like the Fenty side better. I feel like the Makeup Revolution side is coming off kind of muddy, and I just can't think of another word to describe like what's going on over here. It doesn't look horrible, but I'm just not liking it as much as I thought I was going to, which I'm very disappointed in because everybody seems to love this bronzer. But again, maybe I just need to try a different shade, but I'm definitely liking the Fenty side better. I think that this bronzer is worth trying, especially for the price range, and I'm very, very impressed at the shade range, even though I feel like there may not be bronzers in this range for very, very fair skin tones. Maybe even the lightest one might be too dark for you. I do have to say it is refreshing to see bronzers that are on the affordable side that run very deep. Like, I've never seen that before, and I am very impressed with that. But I don't think for me that this is going to be like one of my go-to bronzers. So I'm disappointed, but you know, it is what it is. But anyway, those are my final thoughts on this bronzer. Let me know what you think about the video. Definitely let me know what you think about the comparison between the Makeup Revolution and the Fenty side. So I hope that y'all enjoyed this video. If you did, please let me know by giving me a thumbs up, and I hope to see y'all back here for my next video. Until then, take care. Have a good one, y'all. Bye.